Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. Trinidad and Tobago ups the ante on agricultural development. This story takes the lead in our 990th edition of Caribbean Perspective for Friday, 20th November 2020. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. Host of Global Entrepreneurship Week, Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago, in collaboration with the Agriculture Development Bank and the Minister of Agriculture, Clarence Rambarat, and several other stakeholders held a forum on boosting Trinidad and Tobago's economy through agriculture and what is being done in changing the landscape of agriculture in Trinidad and Tobago in order to do so. TV6's Nicholas Lutchman Singh has more in this report.
Minister of Agriculture Clarence Rambarat, speaking on the landscape of the agricultural sector in Trinidad and Tobago, said it's more of a stabilizing task than a reshaping venture, as there was a time when Trinidad and Tobago agricultural sector was once a dominant part of the economy. But two things happened which changed that. One was the pervasiveness of diseases, and the other was the move into the energy sector. But now we are in a position where we have to be able to feed ourselves and be able to export.
In terms of stability and shaping, is in the area of exports. Trinidad and Tobago needs to get back into the export market. We need to be more consistent. We need to be competitive. We need the support of our Ministry of Foreign Affairs and our representatives in the diaspora. We need that support, but we need to also not only in primary production, but also move into export of value-added products. And it requires, first of all, it requires leadership. It requires the right people in the right places.
Clarence Rambarat said as a minister, he knows his objectives. And one of them is to make good farmers better by giving them the tools, one of which is land tenure. And the second, giving them the opportunity of making value-added products.
We have significant primary production, but to offset imports, one, but also to give our consumers the best chance of eating healthy, eating food-safe products, eating things that they're familiar with. We have to move from primary production alone and to add some value. We see that people are struggling for time, people are challenged, people are not as willing to peel and to cut up and to do the things we traditionally do. And there are opportunities in value added, and we should be focusing on that.
The Minister of Agriculture said come next year, young persons interested in farming and owning a home can look forward to a homestead program in the first quarter of the new year to encourage persons to live where they farm.
A homestead program that will launch next year, which aims particularly at young people desirous of owning a parcel of land or having access to a parcel of land where they can construct a home, but also do some farming. And in the first quarter of next year, you'd start to get some more information on that. It's an opportunity to get people to live where they farm and farm so that they could add a stream of income to support the cost of owning a home in Trinidad and Tobago.
Nicholas Lutchman Singh, TV6 News.
Despite some criticism, the Ministry of Education in Trinidad and Tobago is confident that the new changes to the National Scholarship and GATE programs would benefit those who need it most. As it relates to the bursary system, there is a delay in the process. TV6's Alicia Boucher has the details from the morning edition.
The bursary system came into immediate effect on November 13th, as announced by Education Minister Dr. Nian Gatsby-Dolly during a news conference. However, there is hindrance to getting the ball rolling. The minister says scholarships are awarded based on detailed information on student performance, which generally comes from CXC. It's the same method being used for a bursary, and so that process has not been initiated.
Of course, there's the whole process going on at CXC and remarking. So that hasn't come in just yet. So we are not at the stage at this time where scholarships and those are going to be awarded. However, I can tell you that it will be an online application system, and the scholarship division of the ministry will oversee the process.
Although the amount of national scholarships awarded annually has been reduced from 400 to 100, Dr. Gatsby-Dolly believes the investment the country has made over the years has been paying off.
As recently as yesterday, I signed off on 39 scholarship winners who have returned and who are now going into different parts of the government service, the ministry, going into different into universities and so on.
So why the reduction? The ministry says the trade-off, which is basically 75% less scholarships for the implementation of 500 bursaries, is geared towards focusing the resources on those who really need it at a time of hardship, partly based on the economic fallout from COVID-19.
Who are high performers but may not have the means. You have now 500 of those people being able, or young citizens, being able to access some form of gate, 100% gate, and a monthly upkeep, and a yearly allocation for books or equipment and that kind of thing.
The ministry is expressing confidence in the means test, which is used as a prerequisite to accessing gate funding.
Nothing is perfect. There's always things that happen in any process, but by and large, the means test has been operating.
Dr. Gatsby-Dolly says the recommendations, which have now been implemented, started in 2016 with the creation of the task force, which was set up to review the GATE program.
Those recommendations were made since then. So it really is that some were implemented, and now a further step has been taken to implement based on our circumstances, based on the work of that GATE task force way back in 2016.
Alicia Boucher, TV6 News.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
The St. Lucia Labour Party has vowed to remove the $1.50 excise tax on fishermen if elected at the next general election. Opposition leader Philip J. Pear made the remarks at the party's virtual presentation during the opening session of the annual Delegates Conference on the weekend.
It's all about putting people first for the St. Lucia Labour Party. This is the party's mantra going into the next general election campaign. As a result, the SLP says support for farmers and fishers will be high on the agenda. So much so that the party has pledged, if elected to office, to remove the $1.50 excise tax imposed in 2017 by the Alan Chasney administration. The tax was intended to raise funds for roadworks. However, the SLP claims that the fishers have long opposed the tax. Some critics argue is of no benefit to them.
We'll provide to farmers assistance in the provision of inputs, fertilizers, and irrigation. As part of the support to farmers, the $1.50 additional fuel excise tax implemented by the government for road rehabilitation will be removed for fishers. We shall have open and frank discussions with banana farmers to ensure a sustainable future for their produce.
Opposition leader Philip J. Pear has called for more focus on efforts to achieve food security amid the pandemic. The COVID-19 crisis has led to disruptions in food supply chains, forcing government leaders to explore other means to feed their citizens. Pear encouraged citizens to plant their own food.
We have noted the negative effects of COVID-19 on the economy and are firmly committed to providing government incentives and opportunities for farmers and fisherfolk to avoid continued disruption to their livelihoods. We must aggressively encourage St. Lucians to grow what they eat and to eat what they grow, and to find outside markets for surplus food production.
The SLP has also promised to diversify the agriculture sector.
And SLP government will make certain that our country, through sustainable use of our resources, will develop a truly diversified economy with agriculture receiving equal treatment and prominence as the other sectors of the economy. From its inception in 1951, the St. Lucia Labour Party, founded by the Honorable George F.L. Charles.
Pierre says the main opposition party will seek to stimulate new value-added areas in agriculture, including aquaponics, which will be aimed at the youth. Officials also vowed to hold dialogue with marijuana advocates on a medicinal and recreational cannabis industry. Colby DeVoe, HTS News Force.
Guyana's Vice President Barrett Jackdio has stated that there is no suitable interlocutor from the opposition camp to foster talks on the model of governance that allows the policies and agendas to be continued. However, opposition leader Joseph Harman is adamant that the party's support will only be given on matters of national importance. More from HGP's Wendell Badri.
Vice President Dr. Barrett Jagdeo, during a live televised program on the State Media TV with journalist Liran Brummel, had said that he cannot identify anyone from the opposition APNU AFC party with whom discussions could be had on working together, that is, government and opposition, for the collective good of the country.
That is it. At this point in time, I can't see a single individual who can stand up and say, we speak for the collective and we are going to make some commitments here about working together, and that in the future, and then has the ability, that person has the ability to defend and have the party accept those commitments.
The Vice President was at the time responding to a question from the journalist in relation to continuity of governance and projects for the greater good of the country. Brummel posited that Trinidad and Tobago was seeking to establish a similar policy, where projects earmarked for development of the country would be continued, regardless of which political party was in government, but that the policy had collapsed. Jagdeo stated that in the past, the National Development Strategy sought to achieve this and was proposed to be tabled in the National Assembly. The Vice President went on to state,
often it's not about the generic acceptance of a document. Parliament tends to adopt documents in so they may adopt a national plan. But when you're in office, your fidelity to that plan is tested.
The PPP government had been lambasted by the political opposition through its leader, Joseph Harman, for mass firings of public servants, dismantling policies of the previous administration, such as the disbanding of the State Assets Recovery Agency, SARA, and the National Anti-Narcotics Agency, NANA, among a host of others. In September, at the reconvening of Parliament at the Artichon Conference Centre at Liliendal, Harman made the following remarks about working with the government in the best interest of the citizenry.
We will give our critical support as it relates to issues of sovereignty of our nation, public security, and other matters we determine to be in the public interest.
Wendell Badri, Nightly News.
I am Eddie Frederick, wishing you a restful weekend. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.